I have literally tried to record this video several times today, and I've gotten interrupted every single time. I just put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I said something, and it triggered Siri, and Siri started talking, and it's just one thing after another. But anyway, today I'm going to read some scripture with you, and then I just want to make a couple different announcements to you, just to highlight a couple things. So for the next 5 minutes, okay, I just hope nobody calls me or I don't trigger Siri. So I want to read from Lamentations chapter 3. I've been reading there in Lamentations, and it's given me some hope. In the midst of darkness and tragedy, and of course Lamentations is written by Jeremiah after the destruction of Jerusalem. He's seeing people that he knows, that he loves, died, people that he's ministered to. It's just a horrible time in that nation's history, and he's writing these things, and he's writing out of lament, out of how he feels, and specifically in chapter 3 here, he's writing how he feels his relationship with God is in that moment. But then he turns and he says, "But," and I want you to notice this. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but I'm going to read I don't know, half of it, and you'll recognize some of it. It is powerful. He says, "I am the man who has seen affliction. Under the rod of his wrath, he has driven and brought me into darkness without any light. Surely against me he turns his hand again and again the whole day long. He has made my flesh and my skin waste away. He has broken my bones. He has besieged and enveloped me with bitterness and tribulation. He has made me dwell in darkness like the dead of long ago. He has walled me about so that I cannot escape. He has made my chains heavy. Although I call and cry for help, he shuts out my prayer. He has blocked my way with blocks of stones. He has made my paths crooked. He is a bear lying in wait for me, a lion in hiding. He turned aside my steps and tore me into pieces. He has made me desolate. He bent his bow and set me as a target for his arrow. He drove it into my kidneys, the arrows of his quiver. I have become a laughingstock of all peoples, the object of their taunts all day long. He has filled me with bitterness. He has seated me with wormwood. He has made my teeth grind on gravel and made me cower in ashes. My soul is bereft for peace. I have forgotten what happiness is. So I say, my endurance has perished. So has my hope from the Lord. Remember my affliction and my wanderings, the wormwood and the gall. My soul continually remembers it and is bowed down within me. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I will hope in him." Grief does strange things. It points us to a sense of hopelessness. And even for the believer, even for the prophet of God that knows him, it seems like in those moments, God may not care, or God may not be thinking of you, and it seems like you're the target for his arrows, and we're asking these questions, why, and all of these things. And certainly Jeremiah is in grief. He is recognizing these things. He's having a tough time, but he goes back and he remembers what is objectively true, what he knows to be a fact. And that is the thing that gives him hope in the midst of it all, the way he can move on and pursue life. And that is that the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. God always loves us. In the midst of that pain, in the midst of that sorrow, we know that we are loved by God, and we know that God is loving us. We know that God's mercies never end. We know that God's mercies are new every morning. He doesn't promise that one day it's bad, the next day it's going to go away. But he promises to be with you this day and the next day and the next day, because he's going to be merciful to you every single day. We know for a fact that God is faithful. He's a covenant-keeping God. And his covenant depends on himself. He fulfilled the covenant for us, for a believer in Jesus Christ. He fulfilled the covenant where we couldn't. It's a new covenant. He's faithful to his own. Isn't that something? Great is thy faithfulness. We know he is faithful. The Lord is our portion. The Lord is what we need. Where else would we place our hope? We place our hope in him, because we know these things to be true even in the midst of our pain. Even though our hearts might be searching, our hearts might be grieving, and we don't give into those things. We go back to what we know is true in Scripture. And just as it gave Jeremiah a tremendous hope in the midst of his darkness, in the midst of his pain, it also gives us tremendous hope in the midst of our own. I just wanted to share that with you. Wanted to get through it, and so far I have. I also want to just make sure you're aware of a couple things. First of all, the Bless a Business campaign that the deacons are sponsoring. We're doing that as a church. We just want the businesses in our community. We're kind of choosing one every week. This week is the Fire Pit Pizza place, and we just want to make sure that we're blessing them in some way. We're praying for them. I mean, that's the biggest way during this time. I mean, it's a difficult season in everybody's life. And we want to pray for them. We want to constantly think about the people that are related to that business, that are going in there. We want to encourage them, friend them on social media, write them a note. Whatever you can do, if you know the people that work there, just be a source of an encouragement to them during this difficult season that it is for a small business. And also, if you can, order pizza from them. You know, they deliver, they do curbside. So if that's something that you can do, take part in that. And we just want to encourage you with that. Also, I just want you to remember that tonight is the first Wednesday night of the month. That means that we're not having our regular midweek study, what's regular, right? So we've been having a Zoom meeting the last few Wednesdays, and where we all get together and pray together and talk about the Lord's Prayer. And so we're not going to do that tonight. We're going to have an elder meeting tonight, and that's going to be over Zoom. And then, but I want to move that midweek prayer meeting to tomorrow night. So if you can, 7 o'clock tomorrow night, if you're looking for some Zoom information from me, if you can join us, that would be wonderful. I would love to see you on there. And everybody just have a good evening. I'm praying for you as our church family, as we grieve the loss of one of our own, as all of us are struggling in one way or another, and we're thinking about those members of our church family, the immediate family of those who lost a loved one, those are hurting and suffering. I just want you to know that I'm praying for you, that the church is praying for you. I'm thinking of you as a church family. Let's just love each other well during this time, and that's part of being a neighbor to one another too, right? It's just the best thing we can do, and the most important thing we can do is pray for one another, to lift one another up, to encourage one another. And I just pray that you would be that kind of person during this time as well. So I have talked way more than 5 minutes, so I am now finished.